"I don't want your charity." The old man's voice was gruff, his words cutting through the quiet afternoon like a blade. 8-year-old Lily flinched, but didn't step back from Mr. Grayson's porch. She clutched the small box in her tiny hands, her fingers tightening around the red ribbon. The warm summer breeze ruffled her curly brown hair, but her wide, hopeful eyes never wavered. "It's not charity," she said, her voice steady but soft. "It's a gift." Mr. Grayson, the cranky old man who lived next door, narrowed his eyes. His face, weathered by time, twisted into a deep scowl. Everyone in the neighborhood knew about him, how he never spoke to anyone unless it was to complain, and, most importantly, how he made it clear he didn't like Lily's family. Lily had heard the whispers. She knew the words people used. "Doesn't want them here. Thinks they don't belong." She wasn't sure what that meant exactly, but she knew it had something to do with the way her mama looked. Her deep brown skin, her warm accent, the way she played music from home while cooking dinner. Still, none of that mattered to Lily. All she saw was a lonely old man who never smiled. "I don't need anything from you," Mr. Grayson muttered, reaching for his screen door. Lily quickly held out the box. "Just open it, please." His hand froze on the doorknob. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then, with a sigh of irritation, he snatched the box from her hands. He pulled the ribbon loose, lifted the lid, and his entire body went still. His mouth parted slightly. His fingers trembled over the small, simple gift inside. Lily watched, her heart pounding. She had spent so much time thinking about this moment. Would it be enough? Would he finally see? And then, the most surprising thing of all happened. Mr. Grayson's eyes, so hard, so cold, suddenly shimmered with something Lily couldn't quite name. And for the first time since she had moved in next door, he didn't slam the door in her face. Mr. Grayson's gnarled fingers hovered over the object inside the box. His throat bobbed as he swallowed, but no words came out. Lily watched him carefully, shifting on her small feet. She had expected him to get angry, to slam the door, but not this. Where did you get this?" His voice, usually sharp, was suddenly quiet, almost fragile. Lily's lips curled into a small, hopeful smile. "I made it for you." Inside the box was a small, hand-carved wooden bird. Its wings were spread as if caught mid-flight, the detail in its feathers carefully etched with a child's patience. The wood was smooth but slightly uneven, the tiny imperfections proof of how many times Lily had worked and reworked it. She had spent weeks sneaking into her grandpa's shed, watching him whittle, learning the way the knife moved through the grain. "It's a sparrow," she explained, her voice soft. "My grandpa says sparrows are a sign of hope, and I thought maybe you could use some." Mr. Grayson sucked in a shaky breath. His fingers finally closed around the bird, lifting it out of the box. "Why would you give this to me?" He still wasn't looking at her, his eyes fixed on the tiny carving. Lily hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Because I think you need a friend." His head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "I don't need friends." "I think you do." A heavy silence filled the space between them. Mr. Grayson opened his mouth, but whatever he was about to say never came. Instead, he turned abruptly, stepping back into his house. And this time, when he shut the door, it wasn't with the usual angry slam. Lily let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. It wasn't much, but it was something. She turned and skipped back home, unaware that inside the dimly lit house, an old man sat at his kitchen table, staring at a small wooden sparrow with eyes that glistened with unspoken memories. Mr. Grayson sat at his kitchen table, staring at the small wooden sparrow in his wrinkled hands. His fingers traced the grooves of the carving, feeling every imperfection, every tiny detail. It wasn't just a piece of wood, it was something else entirely. A memory, a ghost, a reminder of a time long buried. His throat tightened as he exhaled sharply, forcing himself to push the emotions back down where they belonged. But the past had a way of creeping up when you least expected it. The little girl, Lily. Why would she do something like this? Why would she offer him, of all people, a gift? After everything, a loud knock startled him. He looked up, half expecting Lily to be standing outside again. But instead, it was his neighbor, Mrs. Calloway. "Mr. Grayson, are you all right?" she asked, peeking through the door. "I saw the little Jenkins girl leave your porch earlier." Mr. Grayson frowned. So? "So that girl is nothing but trouble. Her family is none of my concern," he cut in sharply, gripping the sparrow tighter. Mrs. Calloway huffed, crossing her arms. "I just don't understand why you'd let her bother you. That girl's got no business coming to your door." Mr. Grayson stared at her for a long moment before shaking his head. "Maybe you should worry about your own business, Calloway." Without another word, he shut the door in her face. He didn't know why he defended Lily. Maybe it was because she reminded him of someone he had tried to forget. His fingers brushed against the wooden sparrow again, and for the first time in years, Mr. Grayson felt something he thought was long gone: guilt. Mr. Grayson sat in his dimly lit living room, the wooden sparrow still resting in his palm. His mind churned, memories swirling like a storm he couldn't escape. The little girl, Lily, had no idea what she had done by handing him that gift. He hadn't thought about her in years. The last time he had seen a carving like this was nearly 5 decades ago. His father had carved birds just like it, delicate, intricate, full of life. And then he had given one to a girl his father had forbidden him to befriend. "That girl isn't like us, Richard," his father had warned. "You stay away." But young Richard hadn't listened. He and Eleanor had been inseparable until the world tore them apart. The weight of the past pressed down on him, suffocating. He swallowed hard, his fingers gripping the sparrow like a lifeline. Another knock at the door jolted him. He knew who it was before he even opened it. Lily stood there, her big brown eyes searching his face. "Did you like it?" she asked softly, her hands clasped together. Mr. Grayson hesitated, then let out a gruff sigh. "Where'd you get it?" "I made it," Lily beamed. "For you." A lump formed in his throat. "Why?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily tilted her head as if the question confused her. "Because you look sad." Silence stretched between them. Mr. Grayson felt his defenses crumbling, but old wounds were hard to heal. "I don't need pity," he muttered. "It's not pity," Lily said firmly. "It's kindness." And with that, she turned and skipped back to her yard, leaving him standing in the doorway, clutching the past in his hands. That night, Mr. Grayson couldn't sleep. The wooden sparrow sat on his bedside table, its presence haunting him like a whisper from another lifetime. Every time he closed his eyes, memories flooded in. The laughter of a girl with dark curls, the feel of their hands brushing as they walked side by side, the sharp sting of his father's disapproval. He had never seen Eleanor again after that day. His father had made sure of it. But now, decades later, a different little girl had extended her hand in kindness. And instead of pushing her away, he had nearly done the same thing. At dawn, he made a decision. Mr. Grayson found himself standing at Lily's front porch, his knuckles hovering over the door. Before he could knock, it swung open. Lily grinned up at him. "Hi, Mr. Grayson. Want some lemonade?" He chuckled, surprised at how easily she welcomed him. "Actually, I wanted to show you something." Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Okay." He led her to his backyard, where an old wooden workbench sat under a tree. Dust and cobwebs covered the surface, but the tools, chisels, carving knives were all still there. "My father taught me how to carve when I was your age," he admitted. "I haven't done it in a long time." Lily's face lit up. "Can you teach me?" Mr. Grayson hesitated, then picked up a knife. He ran his fingers over the worn handle, feeling the weight of history. "Yeah," he said finally. "I think I can." As the morning sun bathed the yard in golden light, the old man and the young girl sat side by side, carving away the walls that had once separated them. And for the first time in years, Mr. Grayson felt something he thought had long been lost: peace. Days turned into weeks, and every afternoon, Lily would run to Mr. Grayson's backyard, eager to learn more about wood carving. At first, the old man was hesitant. His hands weren't as steady as they used to be, and he worried he would lose patience. But Lily's enthusiasm was infectious. She carved her first wooden bird, a lopsided little thing with rough edges, but she beamed with pride when she held it up. "It's not perfect," she admitted, "but it's mine." Mr. Grayson smiled. Perfection doesn't matter. What matters is the heart you put into it. One evening, as they sat side by side on the porch, Lily's mother stepped outside. She had watched their friendship blossom from a distance, hesitant but hopeful. "Mr. Grayson," she said softly, "I just wanted to say thank you for being so kind to Lily." The old man's throat tightened. Kindness. How foreign it had felt to him at first. And yet here he was, finding joy in something so simple as teaching a child to carve. "I should be the one thanking her," he admitted. "She reminded me of something I'd forgotten." Lily tilted her head. "What's that?" He looked down at the wooden sparrow she had given him, now polished and sitting proudly on his porch railing. "That people can change," he said. Lily grinned. "Yeah, they just need a little help sometimes." The old man chuckled, shaking his head. That night, for the first time in years, he left his porch light on. A silent invitation. A sign that the walls he had built around his heart were finally coming down. And all because of a little girl with a simple gift.